27. Let's go around the room real quick and introduce ourselves.
Scott Keller, the older person.
Sue Show, city attorney.
Valeria and Luis from La Taqueria.
Paul Mallard, Public Works Superintendent.
Zach Rowley, Mayor.
Tom Realm, Alderman, 4th District.
Debbie Metz standing in for Joe Mallory today.
Amanda Dar, observer.
They're Dar Observer.
Herman Blevins, Chief of Police. Joey Extend, City Engineer. Louis Sarsi, Finance.
Jeff Coon, Water and Light.
John Brown, Water and Light. Jake had all the person.
Shane Blazer, older person.
Steve Cope, all first. All right, the first item on the agenda is the 2020 Waterworks and Lighting Commission budget. Let's start with you guys.
All right, thank you. This is mainly the Jeff show, but I did want to point out a few things. You may hear them twice, but the budget for next year, 2020, does include an electric rate increase. We haven't had one since 2014. But because Great Lakes Utilities, we keep seeing wholesale rate decreases in our wholesale electric costs, the impact to the customer is less than it would be if we weren't seeing wholesale rates go down instead of up or stay the same. So Jeff will cover that. This particular budget, which is strange for us, includes no vehicles or trucks for next year. And also all of our water projects at this present time sync up with what the city's plans are for next year. So I think we're in sync there. Thank the engineering department for that. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yeah, so our goal tonight is just to give you kind of a high-level overview of where we expect to spend and then the operations, revenue and expenditures to be in 2020. If you take a look at the document, we did have this approved by the commission on October 21st. It's kind of a two-part document. The first half of the document is the capital projects that we have planned for 2020. And page 3 is a good spot to start. If you take a look at page 3, you can kind of see we're expecting to spend about $5.15 million in total throughout the water, electric, the IT, and then our common areas, down about $450,000 from 2019. Just because in 2019 there were several substation projects that were in the budget that rolled off, they got done, or it's kind of second phase now that the costs aren't as high as they were then. But for the first half of the budget, pages 4 to page 17 really walks through the capital projects in a little more detail. And if you guys have any questions on any of the capital projects that are listed there, we can talk about them.
Jake, any questions?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. The other half, kind of starting on page 19, walks through the operations and maintenance budget of the utility. Again, you know, it's going to look a little different. We talk about this every year. It looks a little different, our budget does, than the city's budget, because we're prescribed by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin to use the uniform system of accounts. One of those things is that we use activity-based accounting, so you don't see salaries and truck time and all that stuff. Everything gets classified into that activity, so you see categories such as maintenance of overhead lines, maintenance of street lights, those kind of things, and all those costs get put into that account. It works really well for us when we're trying to do benchmarking against other utilities, because everybody has to use the same common accounting prescription, so it's really apples to apples comparison when we're looking and doing some comparisons and benchmarking against some of our peers. But page 19 kind of lays out very high level where we expect both 2019 to end and 2020 to be. You can see 2019 is going to be a little bit lower than it's been in the past. Electric is lower primarily because of the July 20th storm and the corresponding costs with that. And water's lower just primarily because it was a wet and cooler year in 19 than it's been in the past. But as Jem mentioned, we do have an electric rate case built into the budget for 2020. Kind of have that planned to go into effect the later half of 2020. Also helps this years, probably the last 5 or 6, where we've got some additional load coming online in 2020, so we've got some increased sales planned in 2020 with both commercial and industrial customers that are coming to the city. So you can see on the electric side, we're expecting a net operating income of about 1.6 million. On the water, about 1.1 million. Puts both of them right about the 4.5% rate of return on our net assets, which is a pretty good spot to be. Again, you know, as Jen mentioned before, we have to go to the Public Service Commission to get the rates changed. So it'll be a process, but once we do that, they should be in place for several years and not need to be changed again.
Just on the power rate increase, do you guys have an idea of like how much that would affect the average consumer?
At this point, we don't. It's going to be an interesting rate case just because of the decrease in power supply that's been happening. Right now, the rates are set at a residential rate. Ratepayer pays 9.79 cents per kilowatt hour. We don't see that number probably changing a whole lot because of those power costs decreasing. It'll be, I think overall we're expecting between a 5 and a 6% in total, but the Public Service Commission will be doing the cost of service study and kind of be determining where those increases should go that way.
That's the overall revenue impact. Not sure what rate class is gonna see which type of increase yet, but the PSC handles that portion of it.
Any other questions? Anything else?
I just have a question. Underground utility or underground installation has been a topic that came up again, of course, during the storm event this year. And I looked through the budget. I didn't see any special projects, but was there any particular underground projects you want to highlight?
We do have undergrounding of some backlot line stuff in the budget, but as busy as our guys have been the past few years, hopefully we'll get to it. We plan to budget about $400,000 to $500,000 a year in undergrounding of lot line stuff and stuff that's hard to get to with trucks. We found a lot of that out in the storm. I think we're up at about 1.7 million now from the storm damage and counting. But FEMA visits next week, so keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully get some relief there.
Do you guys have anything in here for wage increases?
To follow up, I guess, what is it, how much does it cost, Jim, about to, or Jeff, either one, to run underground?
It's actually, if you compare building and overhead to underground, it costs about 3 to 3.5 times more to put it underground than overhead. So realistically, it's to underground a whole bunch at one time is not cost effective just because you're put a lot of pressure on your rates from a capital perspective. So we plan to be very diligent in doing so, but doing it in areas that need it the most, I guess.
And like Jen mentioned, a lot of the back lot lines that really got hit hard during the storm were ones that, you know, it took several days to get them back up, and those will be the ones that would be definitely candidates going forward. We did have budgeted and kind of baked into the budget, we had a 3% overall increase for wages, to answer your question.
What do you think accounts for employee costs in your budget, since it's all activity based and it's not pulled out? So
Employees and
percentage?
benefits and
Yeah.
salary is 7 to 8% of our total cost.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other questions?
Do we need a motion to adopt?
Yes.
Okay.
I will make a motion to adopt the 2020 Waterworks and Lighting budget as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion second on the floor. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
opposed?
Anything else comes up, just feel free to give I or Jeff a call.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a 2019 budget amendment number 2.
I just made a update to the attachment. Okay, let's quickly go through this.
Yeah, I went through.
Okay, this is the budget amendment. We do each year, and mainly it's really two parts, or a couple different parts. The first is that last year when we adopted the 2019 budget, the wages weren't settled, and they were estimated to budget in the contingency account. The non-union wage increase was approved early in the year. I was kind of holding off on adjusting the budget, seeing where the police and fire contracts came out so we could just do it all at once. But at this point, I was just like, I'm just going to go ahead because I had some other stuff to take care of. So basically in the general fund, in the operating budgets, that's just transferring out of contingency the wage increase for non-union employees into their operating accounts and coming out of contingency. The housing rehab and Hickory Fund, that's our revolving loan fund program, and basically as we get in those loan payments, we do a budget appropriation to recognize that revenue and appropriate it over to the expenditure account. So when expenditures are made out of those programs, they come out of those expenditure accounts. Room taxes, this is just adjusting it to actual. We just got in our third quarter final numbers, so actually room tax is $84,000 better than what we expected when we adopted the 2019 budget. So I'm just appropriating those over to the three accounts for which those funds are distributed to. The grants and donations funds are just the funds that we get in for various grants, donations, and appropriating those over to the uses of those funds. The big one in there, obviously $150,000, is the YMCA. We did a WDC site assessment grant. So we received those funds this year. We just appropriated over, and then we paid those funds to the YMCA for those grants expenditures that they fronted on the project. And also you'll see in there, we also did get a development fee for the housing development over by the Centralia Center. And basically when we adopted the Rapids Rediscovered program, we earmarked those funds to seed that program. So I'm appropriating those monies over into that account, and so then that'll fund any expenditures out of that program and will be carried forward if they're unspent. EMS fund, that just reflects a EMS grant that we got, and then also wage increases for the non-union personnel at the fire department. The Aquatics and Riverfront Fund is basically just adjusting to, when we adopted the 2019 budget, the budget was based on estimates to complete the whole project, but if you remember, we kind of split it in, when we went to borrow, we split it into two phases this year, and then in the 2020 budget, we have another one. So this is just adjusting that budget to reflect what we borrowed and what we expect to expend this year, so that we have an accurate number of what that budget looks like as far as when we're monitoring it. The debt service fund, when we issued the bonds this year, the underwriter paid us a premium. And basically what that is they pay you extra money above and beyond what you're asking, but then they'll adjust the interest rates on the bonds a little bit higher, and so they make a payment to you to make up for that. And basically that's so that it's just a little bit more marketable from their standpoint. But IRS dictates that money has to go to the debt service fund and used to pay for the debt payments on that bond issue. So I'm transferring that from the capital projects funds over to the debt service fund, and then you'll see in the budget we're applying that $172,000 to offset next year's payment on those bonds. Equipment replacement funds, this is just basically as we sell assets, whether it be the police, fire, or street, at auction or private sale, we take those monies and we reappropriate them and put them back into those replacement accounts, because a lot of the rates are derived on depreciation and don't really account for inflationary, so we don't have salvage value factored into those rates, but then we don't have a kind of a inflation factor, so we put those monies back in there to kind of offset that. And the Public Works Fund, that's just a reclassification of a project that was originally budgeted highway rehab to street construction. That would be the East Grand. We're just switching accounts because everything got coded and expensed to the street construction, so I'm just adjusting that budget for that. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Tim? I will make a motion to accept the 2019 budget amendment number 2.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Put a motion and second on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let's have it. Item number 4, consider a request from the police department to accept Aftermath grant funds if awarded. I assume that's going to be you, Chief?
Yes, coming to you, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but in the last 2-3 weeks, we're taking in a vote-based grant program through Aftermath Company. They're a biohazard cleanup company that, they're public safety oriented. We have been competing against departments Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois. I'm glad to say that based on when the votes are counted, we're either number 1 or number 2 in the state of Wisconsin, here in Wisconsin Rapids. And that includes Milwaukee, Wausau, you name it, we beat them all. So that's a big testament to the folks that support our police departments. I'm pretty proud of that. With that said, if we were to be awarded, if we were to win something, the grant would go, it's a non-matching grant, so we could go either from, the ranges from $500 to $5,000 if awarded. We don't know yet, we won't know until tomorrow if we're awarded any monies. But I'm coming to you now to ask for permission to accept that money if we're awarded. But the grant should be awarded tomorrow.
I saw, I got your email on that grant, and it's for the K-9, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's a K-9-based grant for K-9 units, so.
And I went in there and voted. I think it's a good program and a great investment for the community, so I have no problem with accepting that money if we win the grant.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief?
Yeah, I would just like to say, whoever runs the Facebook page or the staff who contributes to that did a great job promoting it. I voted as well, and I've seen a lot of people on there, and I think that had a lot to do with.
I really do appreciate the support from people in town, for sure.
Anything else for Chief? All right, I will make a motion to allow the police department to accept the Aftermath grant funds if awarded.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Good luck to you on that, Chief.
Thanks.
Review and consider acceptance of UW-Madison grant dollars distributed through Wood County for enhancing bike program safety features. Go ahead, Joe.
So this grant, as mentioned, it's a UW-Madison grant distributed through Wood County for enhancing the bike program. The grant amount is for $13,900, and it includes 2 categories. The first category includes bike signage, pavement marking, and safety. That would be the largest expense category, and we're proposing to put the funds for that towards a lighted pedestrian crossing at Jackson Street and First Street, so right on the east side of the Jackson Street Bridge. The other category is for parking and safety signage, and there's 2 components for that we would consider. One is additional bike racks, and also yield to pedestrian signage that goes in the roadway. This is it's approximately about 50-50 match, a little bit more favorable to the city. It really offsets city installation expenses, which are proposed in the 2020 budget.
Any questions for Joe? Anything?
No, I mean, I think anytime we get a chance to improve safety, whether it be crosswalks or bike stations, it's a good thing. So I'd make a motion to approve the acceptance of the UW-Madison grant dollars distributed through Wood County for enhancing bike program safety features.
I'll second your motion by Steve Tom.
Yeah, just a question, and not against, the bike parking hitching post. Is that just like a regular bike, or what do we have?
There's a picture of it here. It's a single post bike rack, essentially.
Okay, well, that's what I thought. And is there positions on
Yes,
the
so
street where we're gonna put that?
a couple of them, a couple locations that we're looking at. One would be West Grand, right outside City Hall here, this stretch of West Grand that was rebuilt, and then also the City Zoo.
Okay, that's what we've been looking at.
As far as
Or-
locations
Hmm?
for those bike racks.
But, okay, unless I'm missing something. Be installed along East Grand.
So it's the same style that was proposed for East Grand that was budgeted in 2019. So it's the same,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
matching style.
Okay.
That's the reference.
Okay.
We have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Who's the second on this?
I second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 6 is consider restricting mobile food trucks from selling in residential areas. I referred this item to the committee, so I'll start off with it. I guess over the years, the mobile food truck vending has become very prominent. I know that we've had a food vendor sell downtown, and they've done well, and it's been appreciated downtown. But one thing that's come up that I guess wasn't addressed when I did some research on this, that wasn't addressed when this started happening, is when we allowed mobile food vending service in the town, we didn't address selling in residential areas, and subsequently that has led into a complaint that there's been some mobile food vending activity in a residential area, kind of around the 10th and Peach Street area, where residents have complained that there's been a truck set up there running a generator-powered truck for like 6 hours or more per day, all day on a Tuesday and Saturday. I know PD's been over there a couple times and shut them down for not having permits, and then researching the item with the city clerk's office, the vendor actually did not have their mobile vending permit either. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I was just looking at, maybe it might be something that we want to consider as a committee to restrict the mobile food vending in the residential areas. There's plenty of other places in town to sell along the main arteries or in downtown area where it is more applicable to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're referring to, and I actually don't have a problem with it. I think as long as the trucks aren't parked there permanently, if they're not there all day, every day, overnight. I know throughout the summer I've seen some of these mobile trucks were at garage sales, and they'd come and people would be doing a garage sale and have the truck. I think there might have been some complaints, obviously, but there's also a lot of people who enjoyed it and did like the service in the residential areas next to the garage sales or in the neighborhood. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, obviously if they're not on permits and the things they need, that's not good. But as far as banning all residential food truck sales, I don't think that's necessary.
I guess I'll be on the opposite side of the coin and be in favor of restricting that activity from residential areas. Is there anything in the zoning code that would?
Well, actually, our zoning code does not forbid, would not allow mobile vending in commercial areas either, because those are temporary uses.
Right.
So really, and there's not a mobile vendor that's been licensed yet through the city, so any mobile vendor anywhere in the city really
Is it legal?
is not
'Cause I know there's
legal.
one
So
I
I think
think
that's something, though, I think it was assumed that the mobile vendors would be okay in commercial areas, but according to our ordinance, it's not allowed there, so that might be something that you might want to address. I mean, otherwise, they would only be allowed on streets, but right now it is any street in the city, provided that they fill out all the information for the vending and, or the application. So I think that's kind of another issue that's popped up that probably will need to be addressed, of whether you want to allow that in any areas, commercial areas.
So correct me if I'm wrong then, right now, if we were to restrict it in residential areas, there would be no vending trucks allowed anywhere? Because they can't be in commercial areas either.
No, I'm talking about on private, I'm sorry, on private, where they are now, where they're going on private, commercial, area, like in front of the hardware store or whatever, that's technically not allowed. Only on streets and only with a permit. So if you're gonna restrict residential streets, they still would be allowed on non-residential streets. We still have an application for that. But on someone's private property, like they have been doing at the corner of whatever, not on a street, that temporary use is not allowed in our zoning code right now.
And we just
So if
adopted
you-
that not too long ago, too.
Right, and you allowed farmers markets and seasonal, like Christmas tree sales, but nothing about mobile vending, so.
Yeah, I myself am in favor of adding mobile vending to
So we
commercial
can
property.
make a referral on that probably, and then I don't know if you want to address this also at that time, or discuss that now, and then the new ordinance could be written, however.
Yeah, I would be in favor of commercial property, but I guess I don't want to set up in front of my house in my residential neighborhood.
Go ahead, Jake.
Myself.
I think there might be some, I'll speak over here, you guys.
Are you here for mobile food vending?
Yeah.
You're at the right time.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I guess that was my questioning, is what was considered residential area, and I guess where we would be allowed to park.
Well, there is a map you can get from the city. It'll show you what areas are zoned business and what areas are zoned residential. I mean, we have all that, but generally residential area will be like a neighborhood, where people are living, that's gonna be a residential area. The problem that people have contacted me on is there's a number of people in town that work shift work, like they have to work overnight shift and they're sleeping during the day. And then when they have a mobile food truck that's running a generator, it impedes their ability to get sleep during the day. And there were some concerns about increased traffic in residential areas when you have people going to get stuff from the food trucks. So people thought it'd be a better fit if it was like down in the downtown area or out on 8th Street in those areas.
I guess what's your thoughts about why residential areas? Or what makes you decide if you're going to be in a residential area? Why do you choose that area?
Well, we're not. We were for a little while because our vehicle to tow our trailer wasn't mobile, but we have moved now, and we are on 8th Street with a business, like with their permission.
We just learned that technically.
Right, and I think maybe there was somebody at the city may have told you that was what to do, but we're gonna need to clean that up. I mean, I think for now, I think some vendors may have been told that was okay.
Yeah.
And it's not, according to our code. It needs to be cleaned up, so I think that's, in the meantime, we're not going to enforce that until the ordinance is cleaned up.
Okay, yeah, because that's what as long as we had permission from the business and it was their private, parking lot or whatever it was, that's what we were told we could do.
Which I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess my concern is if we enact a ban tonight, or we move forward with one before we fix this other code, even though we might not enforce it. I just don't want there to be confusion on where these vendors are supposed to go, and a lot of citizens like that we have these vendors as well, so I'd hate to see all this come.
No, I would be in favor of holding it over until December, when we can
Clean up the ordinance?
Clean up the ordinance and put all the cleanup language in there. I guess my ask would be just for any mobile food vendor is if you're gonna sell in the city, just make sure that you have your permits, your mobile vending permit and everything else that's required, and just be cognizant of where you're selling. If you're selling in a residential neighborhood, you might want to be aware that there's people that probably work night shift or whatever that
Yeah.
may be sleeping during the day and
I honestly don't think there are many that are on resident. I mean, I think this was brought up because of our particular food trailer. And I guess I did go to my neighbors. I had a letter written up. You know, I was trying to be courteous, you know, because we were immobile at that moment. But I know we had an issue with one neighbor. So I'm guessing that's where this is coming up. But honestly, you don't find many food trucks on residential areas. They're usually at a business or
High traffic.
at a fair or at the farmer's market, something like that, yeah.
Will there be a certain piece of paper or something that needs to be filled out then as of December for her to be able to be in a parking lot then, or no?
Under the mobile vendor?
Well, I would think,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
right, well, first off, you do need a license through the county, which.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Which I have.
Okay.
Yep, and we have everything we need to run.
I would say, since I think the previous guidance that was given to you was that you could be in a commercial area on private property, that we would allow that to continue until the ordinance is changed. So I guess the police chief is here, we'll send something internal, we're not gonna bother you. The thing with the generators, there's still a noise ordinance, so if that is over, I don't know how many, I mean, you probably might not be allowed to have a generator, no matter, depending where you are, unless you get a noise variance, and that would be, and that gets to the question of, do you want to, as it's written now, the only permitting is for when you want to be on the street. There's no, well, arguably you're not supposed to be in a commercial zone anyways, but there is no permitting required for commercial. So do you want to have a permit for the commercial also, so that maybe some of these issues can be, or is it anything goes if they're in a commercial?
I don't think anything goes.
Then you still require a permit.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
public, and that was the
Or
question
could
of.
you do a checkbox like
Right.
mobile or?
When this mobile vending
commercial?
for public property, there was talk about should it extend to private property too, and at that point it wasn't. So that would simply be, everybody needs a permit, and then it's just a matter of where you can go.
No, that's what I
And,
think.
right, so we can maybe come up with an ordinance then, and then you can argue over what areas are appropriate. But if everyone should get a permit, then I think that's.
So to cover it, and everybody knows it.
Right.
So in that case, would they need a permit for every place that they're gonna park? Or just one permit and then they can park on all
No,
commercial
I mean,
areas?
the permit, it does, you're supposed to say the location that you're going to be at, but I would think if you're going to be mobile, that it would be okay. I mean, once,
So it'd just be a commercial permit?
yeah,
in general, wouldn't-
right.
Okay.
You could probably list the places and, you know.
I just know a lot of these food trucks move around in several
Yeah,
different spots. If they had to get, 5 or 6 permits for each.
And
Okay.
it's, so we expect it to probably move.
No, sounds good.
Does anybody have a mobile vending
No.
permit at the
There are no mobile vending permits issued by the city right now. So, the Llewellyns had a mobile vending permit, was my understanding, that they sold their trucks, so. So.
Just for your guys' benefit.
Okay.
Is when they're talking about the mobile vending permit, all right, you got the stuff from the county, but you also need to get a mobile vending permit from the city. So sometime during business hours, you're gonna wanna come down here, go straight up towards the city clerk and find Jennifer here, our city clerk, and she can assist you with the process for getting the mobile vending permit, so you're legal in that regards then.
Okay.
But, let me ask you a question, but not yet, right, Sue? Because
Yeah,
it's not, our ordinance doesn't
Right.
allow,
Not
doesn't specify that yet, so not yet, but
Okay.
eventually you will.
As of December?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It'd probably be later than that, but.
yeah, once they pass it.
But you're good.
Yeah, they're gonna talk about it again.
Right.
and then-
But you're good where you're at now. And
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where we plan on staying through the winter, and then once it gets warmer,
We'll be able to move around.
And Steve, you said something too about ice cream trucks?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just kind of that thing,
Right.
well,
Boy,
they're not
So
set up
when you do
right.
the ordinance, if you wanna take that into consideration, because that's usually residential.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you get complaints on those too?
Just because of the same
Oh, yeah.
fact that kids.
Music and oh, that was like.
Yeah, I need to see, yeah, well, I guess we'll have to have that conversation.
I never had to leave it as a kid, it was like a
Chili bar, man.
Well, then I guess what I would be in favor of doing is just, we'll hold this item over till December. We'll come back, address the residential issue in December, and then get the cleanup language in there for the commercial property. If you want, where I dropped for the notice of the next meeting, whenever that comes up, if you want, I can drop that off for you guys again, so you guys could come and, participate in that if you'd like.
Perfect.
Tom?
Yeah, so this committee leaving it up to city staff then to write whatever? Or does this committee actually want to take authority up to actually give the staff what to do?
I think
I really haven't heard that direction.
I'll write something up, and I've couple of things.
Then it should though come back before the committee.
Yeah.
Not you write it, before it goes to staff. Come before the committee, then go to staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah.
I think there's gonna be
Bring an
a
ordinance.
few different areas here.
No,
That's what I'm saying, Sue.
Okay, well, then
No,
the
I
next
would-
meeting, you're not gonna have an ordinance, and then we're gonna come back, and then you
Right.
want us to come
That's
back
right.
a third time. Okay?
I would like to see an ordinance brought forward next month, then we can talk about it, see if there needs to be any tweaking done to it.
See, but you're not having any input into what the ordinance is to make,
I
be
think
made
the
into.
direction was to include private and public property to get a permit, to then, where it's going to be, I can just leave it blank, whether it's residential, commercial, you can choose the zones. I guess, I don't know if there's any other changes that you,
What about ice cream trucks?
Talked
That was
about.
just brought up.
well, ice cream, it would be considered a mobile vendor.
Okay.
So I guess if you want, I could put ice cream and you can fill it however.
That's
you
why I
want.
think I mean, as far as writing ordinance, I agree, I'd like to see something
It's
written
up
up and then
however you
Then
want
we
to do
can
it, or
talk
however you
about
want
adjust
to do
it
Yeah, adjust
and
it.
add and delete, or just kind of have a starting point. That's what
Right.
I'd kind of like to see.
And,
I don't know if residential area is still on the table or not, but I guess a few months back or whatever, the whole selling pumpkins in residential area came up, and the whole issue of increased traffic and whatnot, and that was voted down. So, I mean, not that it really, I guess, affects that way, but I guess that's one thing to kind of keep in mind too, is if you keep residential on the table, I mean, the continuity of it. You didn't let pumpkins be sold in the residential area, so.
Yeah, I'm in favor of not allowing food trucks in residential areas.
So we'll take the rest up when the ordinance comes back.
Yeah, we can read it, and then if we need to tweak it, add or delete, we can do it at that time.
all right, any further discussion on this one? Tim?
So what do you want the minutes to reflect, that this item's held over to the
Yes.
December meeting, which a draft ordinance will be brought back?
Sure.
Or address these, okay.
Item number 7 is consider a Class B beer license for the Central Wisconsin Cultural Center Incorporated, located at 320 West Grand Avenue, Suite 104, for a Christmas holiday art opening to be held November 14th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 8 is to consider a request from Central Rapids LLC, doing business as, you're gonna have to pardon me, I can't. Taqueria. Louis Melendez, agent, located at 1345 8th Street South, for a Class B beer and Class B liquor license.
I think everyone kind of got a
Yeah.
packet. Did you guys, anyone care for a packet? I don't have that.
Yeah.
we have some basic information in there about what we do. Couple pictures showing where the proposed area is. And I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you stop us whenever you have any questions. So, we currently have another location in Wausau, and it's gonna be the same name, same concept. We did include some pictures of our current location in Wausau on the first page. And the first page kind of tells you, you know, kind of what we focus on and what our structure is for our, you know, business plan that we kind of have. And that in the picture is our location in Wausau, like I mentioned. On the second page, we have a, you know, kind of like a picture of the top picture to the right is what it looked like before we got to it and what we made it. And then the second picture, we have the location that we are going into now here in Wisconsin Rapids on 8th Street, which is that empty, you know, location that's right now. And we kind of have a list of some like the businesses that we're working with. We work with a local company. We also work with our local realtor, Mike. You know, he really helped us kind of find the perfect spot. So we looked at several spots, and that was kind of what we decided on. We like that corner. We like that plaza. I know there was a little bit of questions with like Shopko closing down and stuff. We want to see that like that plaza stay busy and bring more businesses, and hopefully we, you know, attract other places to also want to be around there. We got around 16 to 20 employees. I think we're doing a big investment on our end. Me and Luis, and our landlord is also, as you can see, they tore down the whole thing. We were gonna try to work with, you know, whatever was there. It didn't fit our plan that we had. So we decided that, you know, we want to be here for years, and we wanted to really, you know, make it look good and be something that is up to date and more modern. So that's kind of what we're focusing on, some stuff. So we want to have some outdoor seating. We have that. Luis, he designs stuff, so he helped design it too. So we can talk a little bit more.
And we have listed a couple of the details, like we'll be open 7 days a week. Our business hours are there. There's a picture now of what was knocked down, part of that existing building. And then if you go to the next page, there's an image of what the proposed entrance should look like, facing into the Pick and Save parking lot. We have some pictures, some images of our current location, outdoor seating again, register area. So it is fast casual, kind of fast food. You come in, you order, you grab a seat, and then we call you for your food. We've won a few awards in the Wausau area already, and we're really involved with the community. We just did the Big Taste in Wausau last week for Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Boys and Girls Club, and just to really involved with the schools and programs in our community. So.
And just a little bit with like the liquor license. We've never had any issues with any of our liquor licenses. I currently hold one also in the city of Merrill, and I've never had an issue. We work with normal hours. We don't stay open late. You know, there is no bar there. ID, everyone has a bartending license. And yeah, we've never had any issues with, you know, with police or, you know, underage or anything like that. We haven't had any issues with that either. So, you know, we always keep up to date. We always do our bartending license, do our courses. We train our employees to follow them and also take the classes. So as far as that goes, we've been up to date on that too. So.
I'm just curious, what business hours would you keep?
We open at 11 every day. Friday and Saturday we close at 10, and then 9 o'clock the rest of the week.
Jennifer, where are we at do we have a quota on our Class B beer?
We're not at quota. We still have, I believe, 4, if I'm not mistaken, we have 4 left, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I love how you guys came with the full business plan here, that you get into places you already have Wausau, and the community involvement, and that you feature local artists, and I think it's going to be a great thing to have in town. And I mean, this looks great. I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, I bet you the community is too, based on how many taco trucks and other things we've had pop up recently.
Yep. Yeah, we're excited and we think it's gonna be a great addition to the city. And really came from people coming to us and telling us they wanted something like that over here. We get a lot of people from Plover, Rapids, and Coosa, you know, from here to Wausau, so we're bringing it to the community here. So.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Class B beer license, or beer liquor license.
I'll second it.
All right, good. Tom?
Just a question, and not against, just a question. Is there room for what you're doing, or how much room would there be for the outdoors seating part of what you're talking about, and, you know?
Yep, so on page 3, there's a small floor plan right there.
This one here?
Yep, so there's a patio there and a patio in the front.
So it's
it'll
not,
be-
okay. Okay.
So we'll have actually 2 outdoor seating
I
areas.
drove by and looked at it
Yeah.
and whatever, so I'm just wondering how big of an area you're actually looking at, so it does.
Yep, so
it
there's
falls into
2
what's, I mean, what the
into that
footprint is
space.
that's there.
Mhm.
Okay.
So yeah, and that it'll have big windows, so you'll be able to see in and out, and it's street food, so we kind of wanted you to feel you're eating outside, whether you're inside or outside. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys.
Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to discuss Rapids. Item number 9 is consider a request from Joseph L. Mulry for Jack in the Box Resale and Pawn LLC, doing business as Jack in the Box Resale and Pawn, located at 1551 West Grand Avenue for a pawnbroker's license.
I'm here to stand in for Joe Mallory, and to second the motion. He wants to do a pawn shop over there in that building that's bought and paid for in full, and wants to get it approved and start on it. I think he filled out all the paperwork for that lady that went out the door, whatever her name is. Because she had asked me when I got here, so. Are there questions? It's right by the school.
Yeah, I mean, as far as security goes.
Yeah, because he's got other thoughts too, so. Nobody got my.
I guess I would, just a quick question I would have is, like E-Waste Sales, another pawn shop in town.
Then he just moved there.
Yeah, they got, you know, security bars on the windows in case of theft at night, and of course with the selling of firearms. And this one being close to a school, what type of security would you guys have, or?
Security cameras, and he would probably put metal up over the doors. I would suggest that myself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you I was looking for you. What Joe talked to you about doing, so.
We didn't really specifically
Okay.
cover security.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. I'm like the secretary, but then I do usually oversee some things, but I would advise him of that, being in the neighborhood, the west side. I mean, we don't have a lot of business here, and I was hoping that some of the food trucks could stay, because when we wanna go eat, we gotta go across the bridge. And they're all closed early now too, everything's closing really early, and like a retirement community, which is fine. Like I said, he's got a lot of ideas. This one is his first one that he would like to do. And, you know, even probably a few vehicles, maybe motorcycle, but he does know that he has to get approval for certain things, being that he's that close to a school.
Yeah, I mean, my main concern back to the security thing would just be the
Mhm.
sale of firearms in one block down
Yeah.
from the school. And I don't know if, Chief, if you've had any experience with any situations like this, or if it
Last
affects it.
location was across from the school too.
Yeah.
Well, I know Dan,
And there
I
was no
know
issue.
Dan Spalding, I know that he has run 2 of them. And I would definitely be talking to him. He had the one in Point he had just sold, and then, he's got the one in the Peaceville.
I'm not so concerned about the location as far as the school goes. I'm just concerned about the hardening of the structure. to make
Right,
sure that-
right, yeah, that would be my concern
Especially,
as well.
you know, the high dollar firearms, things of that nature, that we're taking efforts to, you know, secure that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that would be, that
Yeah, all
would
in
be
cases
as a
and all
security,
in.
yep.
Gun safety.
Otherwise, I'm in favor for it.
Okay. So,
I have no questions.
Then I'll bring it up again. Has Joe done anything within the area that he's run a business before?
yes, he has. He had run Accurate Remodeling here for many years.
You know, is that the one on Plover and Highway 54 going out of town?
No, he has not been here for 4 years.
No, has he been, was he involved in that?
The Buren Village Park, you mean?
No.
I know what you're talking about.
26 and 54.
He was in that little house there across from the other ones, yeah, I'm not sure what kind of battle they
I
had
just bring
going
that
on.
up for the committee, to take
Because
that into serious consideration, to
they
think
want-
back at times like that looked like and what it was and that type of thing. And I think that, also, I think before, if even the okay is given, that restrictions have to be put on to what has to go along with it, but I think also then maybe the planning should have to, because of what took place out there.
That was-
Actually, planning would have to be, so to make sure what it looks like from the outside too, if it goes through, because if this is the same gentleman,
Was that the driveway part, when the city would put a driveway in the old Images of Ink building he had done, 54 and Fulton? He needed a
if
driveway
this is the
first.
same one, and I think it is.
I'm not familiar with the
Yeah.
I guess,
I know the
more
building
background,
down in-
what was the issue?
He was across from Full Seamless Siding,
Okay.
and it was a junk issue, and then they would have their junk issue, and it was another business, same as his. He just wanted a driveway put in there, and the city will not allow a driveway on that corner. Then they wanted to buy it and put up apartment complexes, was the last I heard. Well, Pro Seamless bought that place from him. So then the issue was gone.
Okay.
That's what I know, but it's a driveway issue, yeah.
I guess I'd like to see a plan. You know,
Okay.
what's his plan, what are we gonna do at this location? How are we gonna address, so we don't have a similar incident as before?
Right, he is talking to also about building, like 4 little apartment buildings in there, or even other stuff. So he does have good plans for the west side. Like I said, I don't like it when, I'm a night person, I worked a lot of nights, I get hungry. So I live on the west side and I have to, and then I didn't know Burger King's closed at 10, McDonald's closes early, all these places are closed when I'm hungry. It's like, well, what do you do now? Grocery stores are closed, except for Walmart.
What day does he hope to be operational by?
That I'm not sure of, depending on this. Then he will just come back from Florida. His son had, just had a bone marrow transplant and did all that in Florida, so he will be coming back. I would say before spring he would have it open.
Okay, so since we got some questions about business structure.
Do you want me to put him on the phone or just ask him these and then have him up here for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of maybe just holding this over for a month.
Till December?
Till December, that way, if we can, maybe.
I'd like to see a plan or some more thought into what this is gonna look like and.
Well, especially if you're gonna
involved.
include apartment complex, that, you know.
Well, I said there's a-
I mean, that should be included within.
Well, that's
I
his
would think.
first plan.
Or
For me anyway.
Yeah, or even, you know, definitely we're not approving that tonight, so.
No,
But.
but the plan.
But, yeah, and I would like to see the security, because I've been in there when it was Images of Ink, and as far as I know, it's just a lot of large glass windows, so if there's gonna be, you know, the sale of firearms, like E-Way sales had, with the bars in the front and different security. I know security cameras help, but you know, people can still get in and out quick as.
Okay, so what happens if he doesn't want to pawn any firearms or knives?
I mean, I'd be less concerned about someone breaking in the middle of the night and robbing the place if there was no.
Well, yeah, how many's gonna rob places anyways, not even knowing what's in places
Right,
nowadays? But yeah, right. You could throw a stone through the window and knock it in.
Right, yeah, and if
And
there's
there's-
50 rifles there and then they get on the street, I mean, that's just the pawn shops I've seen, I like how they have the security or the bars, or some type of alarm system, you know, something,
Yeah,
some
just-
type of
yeah.
plan.
Right, they don't have an alarm in that, but
Yeah.
I will we'll ask all these questions and then follow up the next December meeting.
Okay.
Or, I don't know your name, sorry.
Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer.
I think, and I don't have it written down, but I think you wanted to open the business in December because we talked about a renewal. So it wouldn't be in the spring, it would be yet this year.
Renewing is.
And so, yep, then,
Okay.
because I told him he'd have to fill out the application, and if it was approved and he opened up, then he'd have to renew it for next year, starting January. So I think he wants to get this going as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think he wants to
So-
open before spring.
Well,
Or even-
December,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so,
If I had to vote now, I'm not in favor of it just because of these unanswered
Yeah.
questions.
so.
And just so you kind of understand, this committee is only the first step in getting something approved.
Yeah, yes.
Because from here, it'll go to the full common council.
Mhm.
And there's 8 of us that sit on the full council. And if there's questions, there's a chance that it might not get approved. So just get the questions addressed and
Okay.
everything ironed out. think it'd be better just to hold it over for a month and bring it back and iron out all the concerns that the committee
Right.
before we send it up to the full council for a vote.
Yeah, 'cause I live right by Meade School, and I know there's a lot of activities, so, and I know that building's been empty for a long time. It'd be nice to see something going there for, you know, people on, you know.
So I'll make a motion to bring this item back at our December Property and Finance Committee meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 10.
One more question. Do you need a whole map of what, like, the whole design of the inside too? Or just the plan?
I'm just kind of more curious about what the overall plan is instead of just a building and what you want over there.
Yeah, right.
A little more detail.
And my question would just be around the security.
Yep.
Safety and security, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. I will let him know.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Item number 10 is audit of the bills. And we had those emailed to us, it looks like. Yep. You guys have a chance to look over those as well? I will make a motion to pay the bills. Probably just the check numbers here.
Should be in the title of the document.
It's check 1027 to 1499.
Make a motion to pay the checks 1027 to 1499.
I'll second it.
A motion second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next item is beverage operator licenses. We looked over those.
Yep.
None were recommended denied by the police chief this time.
Someone had an outstanding fine, but no, I didn't.
Yeah, those were all approved by the chief.
Yeah, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the beverage operator licenses.
I'll second it.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is to set our next, oh, I'm sorry, all opposed? Ayes have it. Kind of have myself there, I'm sorry about that. Item number 12 is to set our next meeting date. The first Tuesday in December is the 3rd. I will not be able to make that. So if we met on the 10th, we're still a week out before council. That would work with everyone?
I don't
We
have a
have a
problem with
meeting
that.
next week, Tuesday, don't we?
Yep, I mean, for our regular
Regular
meeting.
meeting, okay. I'm fine with the 10th.
So 12:10 at 4:45?
Works for me.
Okay, so our next regular meeting will be December 10th at 4:45. And then in regards to our budget, I know Jake, you weren't able to make it on the 30th, but we're gonna try, we'd like to have a Convention Visitors Bureau here and then look over the IT budget on November 12th. That's next week, Tuesday at 4:45.
That works for me as well.
I also want to add the sewer utility, though. The sewer utility budget at that meeting.
sewer utility there as well.
That's a 4:45 start.
4:45, yeah.
Okay.
Start early, get
Yep.
done early.
Works for me.
So then, for other people that would like to attend that meeting, then just for public announcement, our budgetary meeting will be on November 12th at 4:45, and we'll be discussing our IT budget, Convention and Visitor Bureau, and wastewater budget at that time. And our next regular meeting will be December 10th at 4:45. All right. At this time, if the Public Works folks want to come up to the table, I got, because I know your committee follows mine, but I got Joe to go over the 2020 budget with Public Works. Figured if they had on this night, that way Public Works could be here as well too, to ask any budgetary questions.
Steve, we're gonna do closed session.
We do closed session first and then go and do budget?
You said you were gonna do closed session first.
Okay, yeah, I guess we could do that. I'll just, if there's consent with the committee to go into closed session first. Any problem with moving the closed session up and then putting the budget at the end?
Fine with me.
Then it can carry over right into public works then.
All right, do the meeting and then motion here. In open session, the committee will vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, parent 1B of the Wisconsin statute, which reads deliberating, negotiating, and purchasing public properties, the investing of public funds, conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. In closed session, the committee will discuss negotiation regarding amendments to the city's development agreement with Community Property Corporation, and then discuss negotiations regarding an agreement involving the sale of land, acceptance easements, street dedication, and other actions to determine clear title to parcels of land near the intersection of Main Street and Section Street North. And the committee will return to open session after this. I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're closed. All right. Now we're going to go back to item number 13, which is a discussion on the budget with the Public Works Director regarding the 2020 budget. Joe?
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is just go over a brief summary, and then if there's any details or anything like that that you're interested in, we can elaborate accordingly. The budget overall is Public Works as a whole is very similar to what it has been. It's a little bit less than 2019. It's about 30,000 more than it was in 2018. I asked Joe Eichstead to present just some highlights of the engineering department, and I've asked Paul to come and do the same for the streets. And we'll do that now if that's okay. But for the most part, it's status quo with just moving a few things around to try to enhance and prioritize. All right, so for the engineering budget, just some of the highlights that we've got this year that's proposed. The biggest thing is continuing to make some plan modifications to our staffing levels. Hopes to provide efficient staffing structure. The main reason for that is to maintain current workloads and continue our 2-year advancement on project design.
So is this a restructure allocation of work or additional staff?
Change of staff.
Okay.
Somewhat of a change, yeah.
Okay.
So we currently use 3 seasonal technicians, and the idea is to convert 2 of those to a full-time. There'd be additional resources along with being able to utilize the capacity during the summer and during the winter for design and construction both, whereas the seasonal techs, we've got seasonal.
So you budgeted for 2 new full-time employees in here, or one?
One full-time in lieu of 2 seasonal.
2 seasonal, okay. Is that going through HR, or?
It needs to.
Yet. Okay. Okay.
We figured the first process was budget.
Good, yep.
And Joel described a few of the things that we need to do to facilitate that as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
So one of the reasons looking at it for 2020 is the 2019 construction season and how busy we were. We had 1 retirement. Technician retired early on in the construction season. We also had 2 seasonal techs that came from mid-state that could only work for 3 months, so it was short of the normal 6-month duration. With the current schedule, we proved to ourselves that we can handle the priorities and requirements of the field under that sort of situation. But moving forward, the concept in order for additional employee to work would be we'd structure our outdoor crews to be single-person crews, and a piece of equipment, additional GPS unit to facilitate that. Currently we have 1. We also have a robotic total station. Purchase a second GPS unit would allow essentially 3 single-person crews to operate autonomously, basically. So that's proposed. Moving on to a couple of the maintenance portions of our budget, curb and gutter maintenance and sidewalk maintenance. Not much is changing there. Pretty much status quo for curb and gutter. There's a slight increase from this year's budget for sidewalk maintenance, primarily for sidewalk joint cutting. It's basically we're grinding trip hazards. So there's a slight uptick there. For traffic control, for 2020, we've got applications for either highway safety improvement funding or ITS funding at 2 intersections on A Street, at Pepper Avenue and Airport Avenue. We'd be looking to try to garnish some grant funds to install flashing yellow arrows and single head per lane. In addition to those 2 grant applications, there would be signal upgrades at 2 Mile Avenue and A Street. So just kind of going through it, making sure we got backplates on all the signal heads, changing the in-pavement vehicle detection to cameras as the ones that are there are failing, updating the ped buttons and replacing the controller. Other than that, that's kind of our highlight summary.
I did want to emphasize also that the structural change with staff. There's another component of that that's not necessarily included in the budget, but that's a cost savings that we anticipate. A few years ago, in order to keep ahead on our design work, we needed to hire a consultant to assist in that endeavor for us to stay ahead. We're getting to the point where we're getting behind again, and the engineering department, prior to the previous city engineer's retirement, had 3 full-time licensed engineers to work on design work. When the former city engineer retired, they hired myself as a public works director. My job in directing the public works activities does not include routine design work. And so the engineering department essentially lost a third of its design capacity. So with some of the efficiencies, though, that we've implemented in field work, GIS, a number of technologies, and just efficiency in general, we believe that we won't have some of those additional engineering costs to have to consult for some of our routine projects. And that those will experience those as cost savings. Can't identify that in this budget, however, but that's part of the objective, is to make the department more efficient, more self-reliant, and there's some efficiencies that can be gained. We've talked a little bit internally about how we will utilize this person and kind of alternate, design and construction oversight, and the person then will leapfrog. That we should really be able to enhance some of our efficiencies even further.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Joe. I think other times I've asked you if there's a tipping point where it just makes more sense to hire somebody instead of keep paying these consulting fees. So I'm glad we've gotten to that point.
Well, and this proposal allows us to do that with certainly some additional technology, but without significant budget increases. This budget really doesn't reflect another person. It's a change. There's some more cost, but not. It's a fraction of the cost of an additional employee.
Sounds good. Are there any other questions from anyone else on this section? Okay.
All right, so just overview from 10,000 feet. Virtually, we're status quo too, except for when you get to the street repair and maintenance activities. Due to the storm that we got July 19th, we did not do any of our chip seal program this year. We prepared for it, and we're ready for it, but the storm hit right when we were supposed to chip seal. So our budget is an increase of $35,000 on the chip seal program, so that we don't go just behind a year. So we're still going to be behind, probably by 60% or whatever, but we're still going to try to catch up. Also, we have an increase in our hot patching, because obviously those activities didn't get very much completed this year either due to the storm cleanup. So there's an increase of $28,000 there. And then the big thing that we're proposing to do in 2020 is very similar to what we did downtown in the bar districts, on 1st Street and 2nd Street, where we're going to do a mill and fill program. Those aren't necessarily new dollars in the budget. What we've done is we've had a crack filling program on the state highways, on the concrete state highways, for the last probably 5 years, and we're getting close to being done with that. So we're not going to have as much money in that contract, because we just kind of have some cleanup areas to do. And so we're going to take the monies that were allocated to that and try to complete some areas in this mill and fill program. I guess the other, our snow plowing budget, there was an increase in $10 a ton for salt, but we also came up with, instead of using sand that we have bought in the past and used for fill on our construction projects or whatever, we found a vendor that can produce, they produce the sand for the county, and they can produce it for less than what we have into it with our time and stuff like that. So we're going to purchase the sand salt for our sand salt from them instead of producing it ourselves. So the increase in salt was virtually funded through the decrease in the sand salt. Otherwise, labor dollars are all the same for that. I guess the other big item is that it's not budgeted through the it's budgeted through the stormwater plan. Our catch basin maintenance and stuff like that, we're increasing those by 25 catch basins a year, just because it's falling apart. There's sections that haven't done the research on it that came online at the same time period, probably during the separation of the sanitary and the storm, that just the rings are starting to fail. So there's more and more every single year that we have to do, and we're trying to do more proactive maintenance instead of reactive maintenance. But there's been an increase in that. So garbage collection, there is about a $30,000 decrease in the garbage collection. it's 470,000 from last year, but obviously last year we had a big ticket item in purchasing of the garbage cans. You know, that was $400,000, and obviously we don't have to purchase any garbage cans anymore or whatever. So the deduction there is from the tipping fees, you know, from going to the carts versus picking up everything and anything before. So otherwise, that's pretty much the same.
Does anyone have any questions for Paul? Scott?
I don't know what the question would be, and it's not on the Public Works agenda, so since we're having discussions, I thought I'd bring it up now. What about the status of Chestnut and 8th Street? I'm still concerned about that corner as we...
It's on the Public Works agenda
Okay,
at the next meeting.
all right.
Number 8.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so were you gonna get back to us on what we're saving on tipping or were we, I can't remember, we left off on
So we
that.
have, in the last several Public Works monthly reports, we've been including what our tipping fees were this year for this month versus last year. So we can, you know, if we take a look at those reports, we can see how we've been doing. And Paul's got that incorporated in the numbers in our budget. What was the differential? 50.
So it's, yeah, I gotta find it, I'm sorry.
Let's see here.
Yeah. So I made I guess a poor assumption or made an error in the 2019 budget. When I did the budget, I strictly looked at the tipping fees, but there is associated DNR fees and other fees that were associated that went, and I guess my assumption for 2019 was incorrect. So our tipping fees there was a cost savings already there of like $5,000 that I had in there for 2019, which weren't correct because I missed all the DNR fees or whatever. And so it's showing a net decrease in landfill contract of $22,000 from 2020 to 2019. But that's strictly because what I had budgeted in 2019 was incorrect.
So are we just absorbing that into the general budget, or have we reallocated that for?
So those are some of the reallocations for the additional chip seal.
Okay.
And the mill and fill program. So
I'd like to see it used within your departments yet. You know, that savings to be able to do additional things. Instead of it just being incorporated back into the general fund.
Right, yeah. I think, you know, given our responsibilities and our staffing levels, this is, we've got aggressive work scheduled for next year. And the mill and fill portion, being that there's some preparation that we need to do, but some of that is contracted. It provides a nice balance and really does allow us to get closer to that 3 miles a year of resurfacing that we are trying to get to be sustainable in our street system.
So one of the things too that I failed to mention, currently we are still picking up our city dumpsters within the parks and at all the city properties. One of the things that I did request was just competitive bidding pricing from the 3 local vendors, just to see if it pays for us to do that work anymore or not. So it's figured to continuing to do it ourselves like we have been, but there could be enough cost savings there too.
Good.
Any other questions?
Are you guys doing parks then, or is that just included within?
Yeah, so I hadn't planned on talking about our parks budget this evening.
Okay, that's fine.
I do recollect though, because I did see part of the last meeting that there was some questions about aquatics and aquatic budgeting. So I was prepared to talk a little bit about that if
bring it on.
If you're interested. So as a brief overview, since we haven't run this facility yet, there are a lot of assumptions that need to be made. Some of those assumptions are projections on rates. So I've made some projections. We'll be referring that. I've got to double check with Sue if that's a property and finance or if that's a Parks Commission discussion. But review on rates and those structures. But I have taken a look at what the requirements are for staffing at the facility. To do that, I used other similar sized facilities as well as the recommendations for staffing levels really that are required by the state. And then we also used our consultant to provide some advice on some of those numbers. And so I extrapolated dollars based on those numbers and you know, kind of what the going rates are for lifeguards and maintenance activities and those types of things. So
Is that outlined in any particular budget right now, or?
So I don't know if we have it
If you
broken
remember
out
from the
yet.
first meeting when we went to the summary page aquatics, where we showed the operation budget and then the maintenance reserve, or I think it was 300 and something, and we showed the breakout between the different funding.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was in this document anywhere.
No.
Okay.
No.
Then I won't follow along.
Yeah, right, and that's again because this is a first crack at it to get us somewhere. And you know, in discussing this with Tim, he didn't feel that it was really all that maybe beneficial to include a lot of detail when it is, you know, a lot of it's based on you know, experience from other municipalities, not necessarily ours for this. But salary-wise, we're looking at kind of a recreational component, an instructional component for lessons, and then programming, a programming component for activities, you know, the public, organized activities for the public. There's also salaries and wages relating to concessions. And I'm anticipating about $100,000 in salaries total. There's also, for operating the pool, some equipment, materials such as the pool chemicals, cleaning supplies, office supplies, first aid, maintenance, repair, uniforms, printing and postage, other miscellaneous, and then concession expenses. Those material expenses I'm estimating to be about $33,000. And I'd be glad to provide this, Jake, if you're interested. Some advertising, training, and then utilities. We've got power, water, wastewater, gas, and phone. Utilities about $85,000, and a maintenance reserve to start setting funds aside because we will have to replace pumps eventually. We'll have to resurface and replace the slides eventually. Establishing those maintenance reserve funds coming out of the gate so that we don't find ourselves 20 years down the road wanting and trying to figure out how are we going to replace some of these. You know, so you know, in that $340,000 range for expenses for the year. On the income side, I've estimated about $140,000 in passes and daily fees. And I've done that given a resident and non-resident rate, just kind of combining the two and kind of averaging in between there. Programming fees, I figured we collect about $3,000 in programming fees. It does depend on our programming schedule. About $50,000 in concession revenues. About $15,000 in reservation revenues for the Four Seasons building, the cabana rentals and the poolside rentals. You know, for around $215,000 worth of revenue. So we're looking at right around that $120,000 expense, where the subsidy budget number, whatever you want to call it, general fund subsidy to operate the pool, and that's the in that range that the council had asked for when we started the project. So I'm pretty confident with the budget. And again, I will pass this on. If you're interested, it's just kind of a draft document, and then I'll be putting together a referral. Again, either be for Parks or for Property and Finance, with the advice of our city attorney, to establish the rate structure here in the next month or so.
Any other questions?
So did we want to do, next Tuesday do parks, or when would we like to get that accomplished?
Can we squeeze Parks in there?
Squeeze anything you want. No, I think it'd be probably.
I was gonna say, it won't be a
Basically,
big-
we'll go through those 4 items and probably at the end. I'll just do a general overview of where the budget's at for the public hearing and stuff like that. So I'll go through that summary document, kind of go through and just highlight so that we're all on the same page as far as what everything looks like, so.
Yeah, and Parks I don't think will take very long. Again, it's pretty much status quo. There's, I know, a few additional expenses incorporated for some of the maintenance of some of the new planting beds, things like that, but I'll be prepared to talk to you about that at our next meeting if that works.
Moving on, then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, or second, sorry. Ford Company, motion second.
Said you'd entertain a motion.
Oh, geez, you got me on that last week. I'll make the motion then.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We stand adjourned at 6:30.